Good morning. I've had a lot of blowback from some of the shows I've been doing since the Parkland, Florida Douglas School massacre. A lot of the comments I've made about the Second Amendment and the NRA, well, some people aren't very happy with me, and that's fine. It's kind of what I do. Here's my take on all of this. Some of your points, I hear you. I do. You don't want the government screwing around with your Second Amendment. Okay? First, we're going to talk about another amendment that nobody seems to really care about. I mean, I am thrilled that so many Americans are educating themselves in their Constitution. They're actually reading the Constitution. The problem is they're not reading far enough. First of all, and we're going to talk about this a bit later, the Second Amendment, they're only reading the first sentence. They're not reading the whole thing, which is why there's so much misunderstanding about what the Second Amendment really was and why it was written in the first place. But there's another amendment I want to talk about first, because one of the Florida school shooting victims, one of the fathers who lost his 14-year-old daughter, said something to Donald Trump yesterday in the listening session at the White House. And he mentioned the fact that he can't get on an airplane with a bottle of water, but he can walk into any gun shop and buy an AR-15 with no questions asked. Now, see, that's another little amendment that we all gave up after 9/11/01, the Fourth Amendment. Have you read it? What it says is that no citizen can be relegated to illegal search and seizure by any agent of the government without probable cause, and in most cases it's called a search warrant issued by a judge, which means before any agent of the government can search your home, your property, or your person, they either have to get your permission or they have to get a judge to order it because you are suspected of a crime. You know, your wife dies mysteriously and you're a suspect. They will go to a judge and say, well, we have probable cause. Judge, will you issue a search warrant? That's how it's supposed to work. But after 9/11/01, well, that kind of went out the door, because when you walk into an airport as an American citizen, you leave your Fourth Amendment in the car in the parking lot. If the TSA, an agent of the federal government, picks you because you don't look right, or they decided that every fifth person in line today is going to be pulled out for extra TLC from the TSA, you're going to have your bags going through. They're going to go through your underwear, your sex toys, everything that's in your suitcase. They can take your cell phone and make you open it, and they can see all of the people in your contact list, their phone numbers, their addresses, their email addresses. They have the right to do that. It's illegal because you're not suspected of a crime. You haven't done anything. There's no court order, but they can do it. They can take a 12-year-old child on his way to Disneyland with his parents, pull him out, strip search him, pat him down, a stranger touching your 12-year-old child in places that only you should be touching him. And maybe in some cases, not even you. They can make him open his computer or his tablet. They can pull him aside, and they've done it. And it's legal. The Fourth Amendment says it's not, but they've done it. Strangers patting you down, touching your crotch, touching your breasts. Strangers. Not because you've done anything wrong, but they just felt like it. You don't look right to them. The Fourth Amendment says they can't do that. But on 9/11/01, signs were missed when 19 Arabic men bought one-way tickets across the country on 4 different airplanes with no luggage. Airlines missed the signs. That would have been a big red flag. All leaving around the same time. And 3,000 people were killed. And we said, that's it. Fourth Amendment, done. You get on a plane, You are subjected to whatever we want to subject you to. And people are like, oh, that's cool. If it stops one terrorist, even a 12-year-old going to see Mickey Mouse, from getting on a plane, works for me. But don't fuck with our Second Amendment. Oh my God. 58,000 people. Okay? 3,000 dead on 9/11. Fourth Amendment, boom, done. 58,000 people are going to be killed this year with guns. That's just this year. Think about that. It's like 58,000 to 80,000 people each year since 9/11 have been killed. That's a lot more than 3,000 people, by the way. So we don't want to mess with the Second Amendment. God forbid. Now let's talk about what this Second Amendment actually says. It says that citizens have the right to bear and keep arms to support a well-trained militia. Well-trained. Now, in 1700 speak, well-trained militia means police force, SWAT team, Secret Service, FBI. In 1700 and something, they didn't have a police force. They didn't have a SWAT team. They didn't have the National Guard. They didn't even have a real army. It was the citizens who were charged with protecting their community from foreign invaders like the British or the French who were trying to kick Americans out of America. Indians who were scalping people. The Founding Fathers did not pen the Second Amendment with the thought that one of their neighbors is going to shoot their wife, or a wife will shoot her husband, or that one of their neighbor's kids at 10 years old is going to pick up a gun and shoot his baby sister by accident. All of these things are happening today. The Founding Fathers didn't fathom that a teenager would pick up his dad's gun and go to his school and shoot up his kids because his girlfriend broke up with him or he flunked math class. They couldn't fathom something like that. That the citizens of this country would turn their weapons on each other. The reason the Founding Fathers wanted American citizens to be armed was to protect all of them from outside forces, from foreign invaders, not from one another. Someone mows over your roses by accident, you pick up a gun and shoot them. It's happened. 10-year-old boy gets mommy and daddy's gun from under the bed, points it at his sister the way he saw on TV, and shoots it, and his sister is killed. 10 years old. He's got to live with that the rest of his life. That actually happened. A 12-year-old girl puts a gun in her backpack to show it to her friends, to make them think she's cool. No intent to harm anybody. This happened a few weeks before Parkland. And it goes off by accident. She didn't intend to kill or shoot anybody, but she got the gun. Founding Fathers didn't write the Second Amendment thinking that was going to ever happen. I have a viewer who recently bragged to me, oh, after that Texas church shooting, you know what I did? I went out, I bought a gun, and I got a license to carry. Because I'm going to go to church with a gun. I'm going to protect myself and my family. And I'm like, oh my God, I am so glad I don't go to church with you. I don't want to go to church and sit with fellow parishioners with guns on their hips like the Wild Wild West. No, I don't want that. Someone suggested yesterday that we arm our teachers. Really? Like they don't have enough responsibility already? First of all, they have to control sometimes a class of unruly kids, undisciplined kids, spoiled brat kids. They have to control these classrooms with sometimes 40 children. The schools are already responsible for feeding their students breakfast and lunch because the parents, God forbid, they feed their kids. The teachers are trying to get these kids to learn how to read books and learn math and just basically get through high school. They don't get paid enough to also become policemen. They don't get paid enough to have that decision in their hands, where they have to grab a gun and point it at a student or a former student and decide to take the headshot. That is not a teacher's job. And I'm going to tell you this, if you want teachers to start doing that, you better raise their salary by quite a bit. That is not their job. We keep pounding the Second Amendment like the Constitution is not a living and breathing thing. And it is. It evolves with the times. It evolves with society. You may not like it. You may not agree with it. But the Constitution can be changed. It can be tweaked. Because things are not the way they were today as they were in the 1700s. We had the Trayvon Martin case, which doesn't get much news, but it's interesting because Trayvon Martin's mother was actually in a town right up from me, Millersville, Pennsylvania, talking at Millersville University. If you remember correctly, her son was killed simply because a man with a gun, not a police officer, not anything, just a neighborhood watch, a self-proclaimed neighborhood watch guy, didn't like the way Trayvon Martin looked. Trayvon Martin was 15 years old, walking in his own neighborhood, home from the store after buying some Skittles and an iced tea. And this Zimmerman guy, he didn't like the way he looked, so he did call the police. The police told Mr. Zimmerman, stay in your vehicle, we're coming, we will talk to the young man since he's obviously bothering you, even though Zimmerman wasn't actually supposed to be in that neighborhood. It wasn't his neighborhood. But it was Trayvon Martin's father's neighborhood. He was walking to his dad's house. But Zimmerman did not listen because he has the Second Amendment right to protect his community. And he had a gun. And he got out of the car and he pulled a gun and he killed 15-year-old unarmed Trayvon Martin. What did Trayvon Martin, what crime did he commit? Well, he was black. He was wearing a hoodie. And he was walking down a sidewalk where Mr. Zimmerman felt he didn't belong, per Mr. Zimmerman's beliefs. Turns out it was Trayvon Martin's own neighborhood. Now, how would you feel? How would I feel if I have a hoodie on right now, and it's raining today. So if I want to walk to the market, I'm going to put my hoodie up. What if one of my neighbors with a gun doesn't like the looks of me and decides to shoot me? I guess per Zimmerman's viewpoint and per the Second Amendment, they have a right to. I'm walking down the street. They don't know me. They don't like the sight of me. I'm wearing a hoodie. I look dangerous. Bam! God forbid they say something to me. I reach in my pocket to say, hey, I live right up the street. And boom, they think I'm reaching for a gun. And let's talk about trained militia. We have trained police officers that all the time we see them make mistakes. Where a suspect, they stop them, they pull them over, they get out of their car, they say, I'm getting my cell phone, they're reaching for a weapon, bam, the cop panics. And they are trained. And yet, per the NRA, always touting the Second Amendment, your neighbor can get a weapon. And they don't get the police training. Think what they're going to do. If, say, I knock on their door and I don't get an answer, but their door's unlocked and I walk in and go, hey, are you home? And it's like, bam, you walked into my house. And I'm dead. I'm dead. I mean, this is the things we have to think about. These are important things. By no means, as some people have accused me of, do I want anyone to knock on your door and come into your house and, of course, mess up your Fourth Amendment and take your guns if you have no ill will with those guns. But I've also asked this question that nobody seems to be able to give me an answer to. Why do you feel that you need a gun? A handgun, okay, for self-protection. If someone breaks into your home, yes, you do have a right to pull a gun on them. An AR-15, I'm not so sure. And let's remember what guns are designed to do. They're not pieces of art. Some collectors may argue they are. That's fine. But they are meant to destroy things. They're meant to kill animals, preferably for food and not trophies. They are meant to kill people. And I say to those of you who say the Second Amendment says I have the right to bear arms to protect my country, my community, go volunteer. Join the Marines. Join the Army. Join the Navy. Join the Air Force. They'll let you shoot all the guns you want, and you'll be doing it to protect, truly protect your country, your community. Join the National Guard. They'll give you all the guns you want to shoot. You'll have a good time on your drills. And then someday you will actually be able to maybe protect someone in your community or in your family because you're trained to do it. There have been so many cases of people being killed with their own guns, that they point a gun at an unarmed intruder that is trespassing on their property, and because the intruder is now fighting for their life, they didn't have a weapon, they grab this person's gun because they're not trained, and they kill the person with their own damn gun. We need to think about this. You go to get a driver's license. You got to take an eye exam. You got to take a written test. You have to go in the car and prove to an agent of the government that you can drive a car safely. You go into a gun store and buy a gun, they don't even ask you if you know how to load it. You don't have to prove anything, except that you've got $130, you're over a certain age, and as far as the police in your community know, you're not a criminal. You haven't beat your wife or beat your kids. At least you haven't been charged with it or convicted of it yet. They're not asking the right questions. If you are going to buy a weapon, and I don't care about the Second Amendment, no one's saying that you law-abiding citizens out there, normal people, with no criminal background, with all good intentions, should not be able to go into a gun shop and buy a gun. But at least don't you want to know in your own heart and your own head that when you buy this weapon that kills things, that you can use it and use it properly? That you're not just going to snap because someone's playing loud music next door and you're like, well, hey, I got a gun. I don't have to just yell at them. I'll just shoot them. That'll shut their damn music off. It's happened. And these aren't crazy people. These aren't people with mental illness. They passed the background checks, and they should have. But when they get bothered by something or someone, they snap. And they're like, well, I don't have to take this shit. I have a gun. Bam. And somebody is dead for playing loud music. Someone is dead for accidentally mowing over their neighbor's roses. A dog is shot in the head for barking because the neighbor didn't like the barking. Well, I can fix that. Bam. It's happened. Children have accidentally killed their siblings or their friends when they found mommy and daddy's guns. It's happened. This is my problem. This is my problem. I maybe should not have compared the NRA to the tobacco lobby. That got me a lot of feedback, a lot of blowback, and that's fine. But once again, I don't need cigarettes, but I do like them. I enjoy them. And yet the government, a lot of the times it comes from the federal government, the state government tells me, oh, I can buy cigarettes, I just can't use them anywhere, even in my own car that I own in certain circumstances. That I own a bar or restaurant, I can't allow my customers to smoke in a privately owned bar or restaurant because the government tells me I can't. There's all kinds of things. Now, of course, smoking isn't a right. You know, it's a vice. It's something people like to do. But in today's age, in 2018, I submit to you, is owning a gun really a right? Or is it like driving, a privilege that you should have to prove, especially since just like a car can kill people, not 17 people in 7 minutes, but just like a car, shouldn't we have to prove that a purchase that we're making that is designed by its very definition, a weapon, to harm people, to kill things, shouldn't we have to prove that we know how to use it and that we intend to use it properly? Something to think about. I do welcome your comments. I would appreciate it, though, if you not attack me personally. I have said over and over again, I respect your right to own guns. What I don't respect is this idea that everybody who wants one should have one, regardless of their mental status, their age, their maturity, or their ability, their proof of ability to be able to use it responsibly. We don't let 15-year-olds drive cars by themselves. We don't let 18-year-olds buy beer. Again, don't agree with it, but that's the law. Why in the world would we put a weapon of war into the hands of an 18-year-old? If he wants to own a gun at 18 and protect his domain, protect his country, he can join the military. He can pick up a gun, stand a post, and honorably serve his country. He's allowed to do that. Can't buy a beer, but he can join the military. Some of the discipline in the military might be good for some of these kids who are obsessed with guns. Let them learn respect for the weapon, how to use it properly, when to use it, and also the discipline that comes with a military background, with military training, with boot camp, where they're not coddled by their mamas and protected by their mamas, who say, oh, he's just a little off. He's upset because his girlfriend broke up with him. Oh, he flunked math. That's why he's so upset. That's why he cuts himself. That's why he has guns. He's not really a threat to anyone. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday. Some of you may be glad to hear, some of you may want more, but Tuesday will be my last show on this topic unless there is real breaking news on this subject. Tuesday, I'm going to do a show on mental illness because I do believe there is enough blame to go around here. There are dots that should have been connected with this particular monster in Florida that were not connected. And I know why. I have personal experience with mental illness. People I know who have suffered with it, whose children suffer with it. And I do have a few little ideas that might interest you. So Tuesday we will talk about mental illness, not guns, I promise. But this is a subject that I really think a thinking person, an intellectual person who really wants to believe in the Constitution should probably read more than just the Second Amendment. So maybe some weekend reading for you. Actually read it. And go further than the Second Amendment. Go to the Fourth. And go to the Sixth, by the way, because a lot of my viewers on YouTube are interested in this Me Too thing. And they've said I've been very fair about it. The Sixth Amendment says you have the right to confront your accuser, and yet we have men all over this country losing their jobs without ever knowing who actually accused them of anything or ever facing them in a court of law. They just get fired, boom, like that, just because some anonymous person accused them of something. So if you're going to tout the Constitution to someone like me especially, you better make sure you've read more than just one part, just like with the Bible. Don't just read Leviticus that says man shall not lay down with man as he does with woman. Keep reading to where it says those who eat shellfish are an abomination to the Lord. Nobody reads that part because, oh my God, shellfish is good. So if you're going to start talking the Constitution, at least know what you're talking about. Know what was actually written in the Second Amendment. Know that parts of our Constitution have already been trampled over with our permission and in some cases our thanks. Because we have not had another airline attack on our soil since 9/11. because the Fourth Amendment has been kicked out the door. So have a great weekend. Please tell each other how much you mean to each other. We all know how fragile life is. When your loved one walks out the door to go to work, to go to school, to go to a club, to even go to church, you don't know for sure that you're ever going to see them again. So please make sure that when someone walks out of your house, you let them know what they mean to you, how much you love them. Tell them to be safe, and you all be safe over the weekend. This show's running long. I apologize, but sometimes things just have to be said. Had to get this off my mind. I thank everyone for their comments, whether they agree or disagree with me. Everyone is welcome at my table. Have a good weekend, everybody. I'll see you back here on Tuesday. Political Paula, out.